Good morning. Today on Testify, we are talking to Jennifer, and I'm titling this one, A Storm is Brewing. Jennifer is going to give her testimony of how she overcame an abusive relationship, cancer, and became a God believing Christian that she could share a story that you won't believe. So, here on Testify this evening, we're getting ready to meet Jennifer. And Jennifer is going to give her testimony, and you're going to be encouraged and inspired by this wonderful woman of God who was going through a terrible time. She was in the valley, she was in the pit, but believe me, a storm was brewing and God was going to bring her out in a mighty, mighty way. So get ready to meet Jennifer today on Testify. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Jennifer, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Good to meet you. Good to see you. I'm so glad you agreed to come on to testify and give us your testimony. I've heard a little bit about your amazing life and where you've come from, and I think that your testimony is powerful enough to encourage someone else in their struggle, their day-to-day life struggles, and people, young women or men that are in abusive relationships, and then so many people, so many of us are dealing with family members that have cancer or have dealt with cancer ourselves. So we're just here to hear an amazing testimony and get to meet Jennifer. What is your last name?
My last name is Figueroa.
So Jennifer Figueroa. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about Jennifer.
Jennifer is a realtor. She was bought into real estate by her awesome boss, Tony Herrera, who brought her back to God, actually. So he was a true blessing in my life. I'm a single mom. I have a boy and a girl who I love very, very much. Family is everything to me. Once I had my kids, I already knew, like, this is my purpose right now. This is what I have to do. They changed my life. I graduated from John Jay University with a bachelor's. I was always wanted to be a lawyer. The LSATs discouraged me.
The testing.
Yeah, so I took
now you should not let that discourage you. I just interviewed someone the other day that took the test over 10 times before she passed. But she hung in there, she persevered, and she passed.
Yes, well, I was very young at the time. I did the 4 years straight out of school. And when I got to the LSAT, you know, what that taught me then, there was a young lady in the course who had what we thought, no concept of anything. She was asked these crazy questions that had nothing to do with law or the test. And she would get a perfect score on the exams. And it taught me something, because I was like the other kids, or adults, young adults, we were studying, we asked all the right questions and we couldn't get it. And I later learned it was the way I was thinking. I had to have a certain train of thought for the LSATs. And I wasn't quite there yet because I was too young to understand that it wasn't about regurgitation. It was about changing the way you thought.
Yeah. We have to live and we learn. So what kind of childhood did you have?
Very big family. I do. Okay, so complicated story. I do have siblings. I just met them. I searched for my father, I want to say 5 years ago. I decided to search for him. So on my mom's side, I'm an only child, but our family is large, a very big family. Yeah, very Latin, very Puerto Rican, aunts, uncles, cousins. So I don't think I ever felt the lack of my dad because it was so filled with so much family.
Where were you raised up at? Are you from New York?
I'm Bushwick. I was born in Bushwick, and then about 9 years old, we moved to Flushing, Queens.
Okay, Queens. All right. I've only been to New York to Times Square, so I've only been a tourist in New York, but we have a mutual friend in New York, so we used to be in New York.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you met your husband and how old were you when you got married?
Oh, he's not my husband.
Your ex?
I met him working through mutual friends, actually. I was a bartender. I was a lot of things. I worked so many jobs, it wasn't even funny. But
A
I
lot of us
did.
come from that hard road.
Yeah. I met him in the bar, and I just remember thinking, wow, this guy is so charming. He is amazing. He was witty and, smart, very talented. He's an excellent dancer, but I was drawn to the way he spoke and he thought, because he was very well spoken. And again, fresh out of college, I just got my first apartment, and I remembered, well, I don't want to date nobody else that doesn't have their own stuff. So
Right.
when I met him, he had his own place too. He was, working, and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Young people, we jump so fast to think that, I was checking the boxes off on my checklist, and this has to be the guy.
Yeah, we all had that checklist. Now we look back and we was like, a checklist, really?
Mm-hmm.
So you met him, and of course he was charming at first, and y'all were together for
Yeah,
how long?
11 years.
11 years. And of course we know that during that time things turned. They turned for the worst. How bad did it get?
Oh, wow. I compare it to living with the devil.
Wow. Your your um your children, they were young when it started, or were they old enough to
This
know?
it started before my children even came, to be honest. This was so wild. I didn't understand words like grooming and stuff like that till after I got into therapy.
Words like what?
After I got into therapy, I started to understand these terms like grooming and people
Okay.
who prey on you. I wouldn't have thought that then. It starts very early. Well, for me, in my case, it started very early. It started with a lot of mood swings. Once, we were spending a lot of time together, and there was a lot of secrecy and a lot of, you can't know this, you can't know that. And then when I was like, well, okay, and then maybe I shouldn't be here, then it was like, no, 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 come back. No, 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 I'm sorry, forgive me. It was my job or my attitude. And then, I'd accept that because I'm, in my mind, he's apologizing. He really cares for me. He's telling me he loves me. So I would constantly give him the chance. I do realize now that that probably did come from not having a dad and wanting that attention, that love from a man. The first crazy incident ever, which frightened me more than anything else. So we were having a discussion in my apartment, and it turned ugly fast, and he decided to take a butcher knife out of my kitchen, and he was telling me, oh, I know how to kill myself. Do you want to see? I know the right way to slit your wrist. And he just took the knife, and he started carving up and down his arms. And then he took a bottle of Bacardi, and he was just trying to guzzle it, and it was falling all over the place. And at that point, I was like, listen, whatever I did, I'm sorry. Because, that's what it felt like. It felt like it was my fault.
And you just wanted
especially if he was saying,
yeah.
And
so
I
anything
really
to stop
wanted
this
him to
moment
stop.
right now.
Yeah.
Yes, I could. It sounds like a scene out of a movie. I mean, I could just picture it as you're saying it, and you would do anything just to stop it at that time.
Yeah. And then when he did stop, I felt terrible, which was not the right response. I wish it would have been different, but it wasn't, and I understand that now.
Yes.
And from there, it got progressive very fast. The moment that he felt he could grab me or like pull me, he did. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what was happening. I was very confused. And I know a lot of it felt like my fault. And at the same time, I started to feel crazy. I was like, what is going on? Like, am I crazy? What did I do? In this period when all these things were happening, I ended up getting pregnant, which was another interesting ordeal. The way that he impregnated me was not very nice. And once I got pregnant, it was like, I got you.
Another one of the traps and tricks of the trade, part of the grooming and the manipulation.
Yeah, it was like, I got you. He used to hit me during my pregnancy. And the crazy part about everything, which made me feel extra crazy, was everybody knew. His friends knew, his family knew, and they just dismissed it. Oh, that's him. Oh, we told you he gets angry, but they kept feeding that animal. You know, there was no real pull to like help or do something. It was just like, you know, that's him, and if we say something, he's gonna get mad. And I didn't have nowhere to go. I was scared. And once the first wild thing happened, you know, the hitting and the carrying on and I'll find you, and the threats of I'll kill you and I'll kill myself, that was really like, I did not know how to get out of it. I just, there's no other way to explain it, but I didn't know how to get out of it.
And there's so many people that don't understand when you're in a situation like that, a domestic violence situation, and everybody just says, leave, leave, leave. But they don't understand the manipulation and the fear and the threats that will keep you mobilized in place right where he wants you. And it takes a lot to get from under that. It takes a lot to get from under that.
I had no idea. And there was a lot of cheating going on. There was drugs. There was a lot of layers to this situation that I did not discover in the beginning because I wasn't aware to get to know somebody like an onion. I mean, you really have to peel them back.
Right.
You have to go through everything to make sure. And I don't want to say not crazy, but they don't have deep issues the way he had. He had like a lot of issues. And I think what happened with me, I just got the brunt of the issues. I'll never forget one time, he's just telling me like, the other ones, they had it bad, but you're going to get it the worst. You watch. Wow. And things like that.
Wow.
They really freaked me out. And the fact that people knew, it was very disheartening. My self-esteem was horrible.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. And it was hard for me to tell my family. I was trying to, but again, that attitude of, well, just go. And, you know, at this point, I already have a baby. Where am I going? I was still kind of bartending. I would drop my baby off at my boss's house because his wife was good with kids. And I would run and bartend because at this point, I was paying for everything. I was paying all the bills. I was doing everything. And he was out having a good time, you know. His lifestyle called for this sort of attention that he craved, that he wanted, and never got it from me. He made me feel ugly. He made me feel worthless. Everything under the sun that I could feel, I felt. And then lo and behold, in the first 2 years of my daughter's life, I was diagnosed with stage 4 tumors. They didn't know where it came from. It was very aggressive, they said, and I was gonna die. I remember my mom coming out of the doctors crying.
How old were you then?
Oh, it was like 30, 31. I think I was 30. And then my 31st birthday, I celebrated because things had changed again. But
okay, so let us
at
pause right there, Jennifer, and we're going to go into a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and get really into it, okay? Okay, so now, Jennifer, we're at the part where you just found out that you have stage 4 cancer. And how old are you?
I'm 30 years old. I have these ginormous lung tumors inside of me. They said the lung tumors were the size of Idaho potatoes and they filled both of my lungs.
Wow. And you're 30, you got one child, and was he sympathetic at all? Was he helpful at all?
It's very hard, right? Because I want to believe that when he did certain things, they were meant for me. But I don't. And it's only because there was already a pattern developed. When bad things would happen, he will go into this mode of trying to do all these things for me to kind of make me forget or like stop me from going to the police. And it worked. It worked a lot. I mean, I'd want him to wake up. It wasn't happening. I'd finally get the courage to do something. And then he just go into this mode. I love you. I don't want to lose you. Clean the house, cook.
So did the abuse stop during your cancer period?
What happened?
Did the abuse stop during your cancer period?
No way. It was a different form of abuse. So what happened was when he found out initially, you know, we were sad, he was sad, but it didn't stop. He was trying to solicit his ex-girlfriend for sex. And I found that out because me and her eventually spoke because, you know, I don't know if this is all people or just certain types of individuals where they try to keep you away from certain people, and they tell one person one thing and tell somebody else another to kind of pit you against each other. Mm-hmm. So you always have this idea that this person hates you and that person hates you. And you're like, but what did I do to them? You know, why do they hate me? The day that they did the biopsy to confirm my tumors, he had called her and invited her over to my apartment so they can sleep together. And she actually didn't go through with it. But I already, see, the thing is, when you're with somebody like that, you start to learn how they work. You know, you can see the patterns. Right. And I had the feeling. So I knew that even though he was trying to be somewhat nice, it's because he wanted something in return. Right. And the problem with a situation like that is that they always want something in return. And I never found out about that till afterwards. But in that time period, I already knew, you know. Mm-hmm. And I never forget, I told the doctor one day, they were like, you know, if worse comes to worse, we're going to have to do chemo, radiation and stuff like that. And I was like, let me tell you something. There is a God and he knows what I'm going through. And I promise you, I'm going to live to see my daughter's wedding. And I don't want none of the stuff you want to give me. And I walked out of the office. I was like 120 pounds at most. I'm 5'10", you know, I'm very tall, 120 pounds. I was a skeleton. Yeah. the last time I didn't even walk in the church. The last time I had actually gone to church at that point, they had to carry me because I wanted to see the pastor. You know, the pastors knew what I was going through and they never wanted to make the decision for me. I stuck it out because, you know, some part of me was like, God, help him change. Please, I don't want to break up my family because my daughter, she loves her daddy, or she loved her daddy, you know, and
so
even though the moments weren't
where the storms starts brewing, as we said.
Yeah,
you are sick, you are sick, you are sick, you are in an abusive relationship, you have a daughter, you have a family that you can't depend on. Now you can, your only choice is to turn to the one God, because you know.
Absolutely.
So now you said in your pre-interview, you said that your boss, tell us about him, because he helped you turn to God.
Yes, you know, it's so crazy because God knows what he's doing. He really does. And I can only say that there were angels placed in my life to make sure that I did not die by that man's hands, because I met my boss in the bar because another, I wouldn't say friend, acquaintance who used to frequent at the bar was a realtor too, came in and brought him. He gave me an interview on the spot while I was bartending. He's like, come into the office. I'm like, you got it. And he interviews me the next day. He's like, you know what? You can work for me. I think you got it. I'm like, okay. I start working for him. And at this point, I don't realize that he's like a hardcore Christian. Mm-hmm. And he makes us this offer in the office one day. And he's like, guys, I'm gonna get a limo. It's the holidays. It's Christmas, December 2008. I'll never forget. But we got to go to church. And everybody in the office is huffing and puffing. And it's not that I didn't know God. Right. I knew of God, but I didn't know that God. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to church. We're Catholic, I believe. You know, all right, no problem. Let's go to church, Tony, whatever. And he does all the things. He gets the limo. You know, we get in the limo. He takes us to eat. He takes us on a day. And we get to church. And the Journey Church, 2008 in the Manhattan Civic Center. I never forget this day. And Pastor Nelson Searcy was preaching.
I can see it. I can feel it.
And I already knew. And I looked at my boss and I told him, why did you do this to me? I'm doing this wrong. That one experience.
Lord, mercy. Yes.
And then I just knew. And then I was like, well, if that worked for me, maybe it'll work for him. You know, and I'm like, come with me to church. Come with me to church. But the thing about the devil is that once he's got you, even if you go to church, if you're not ready to surrender, you can act, you can pretend. Like a lot of my 11 years in that relationship was pretending, you know, beautiful pictures for what's happening in the background. But if you don't give that heart to God,
right,
it's gonna happen. And there's nothing that you can do as a human to try to get them to see. And that's what it felt like ultimately. Like I was living with the devil, and the demons that surrounded him was just too powerful for me. And I was wasting my energy, which alerted me. This is God's fight, girl. Yeah. Let it go.
The battle is not yours.
Yeah. I knew it. I knew it for a long time. And I didn't want to give up, because in the other side of my mind was like, God, I know that you don't want your children to be hurt like this. And, you know, but you also say love unconditionally. And I think I was confused at that point. Yeah. Because I didn't understand love unconditionally, and you can walk away and you know, heal and take your kids, or you know what, if I send him to jail, that is love. I didn't understand that. I thought if I did these things, I would be hurting him. But also, I now have this new mentality because of the things that I've been told and all the beatings. One time he comes in and he is coked out of his mind off of an 8-ball. And he just started strangling me. And a lot of these things he did in front of my children is very scary.
Yeah.
And I just remember saying, God, I can't die here. Please, not like this, not with my daughter in the next room. And I don't know how I managed to like knock something over because I couldn't breathe no more. And my daughter came running in. And she's like, what's going on? She thought we were playing. And I'm like, you gonna do this in front of your daughter? You gonna do this in front of your daughter? And then he let go. And I grabbed her and he tried to grab me. And the minute that I could, in like my bare feet and my pajamas, my daughter was in her Pampers, and I hauled butt out of that apartment. And I was knocking on doors and I'm like, I gotta get out of this situation. And tumors, trying to get out of this, trying to work, trying to get all these things done. I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? I gotta hone this in. I am not doing this right. You know, I repent. Forgive me. Show me the way. And you know it's true. God does. He provides a way out. And I don't think I worked harder in real estate than I did that year. And I did so well. I made 6 figures that year. And it was a blessing. I worked with a friend and I was able to retain another apartment.
Sometimes it takes the children to help you make that decision, because like you said, you never realize you love your children more than anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes you will not protect yourself, but when it comes to the kids, it will change the whole story. It will turn everything around. So now you've left him. Did you have a lot of problems leaving him?
Yes, I had a ton of problems. You know, when you leave, and this is key. You have to mentally leave. You can't just phically leave. If you don't mentally leave, you're still attached.
Mentally
and I was still attached.
Yeah.
I was still attached. I would try to date and I couldn't, because I was like, no, I have to take my daughter to see her dad this weekend. And we do things together like a family. So we were living separate, but we weren't really separate. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe he has changed. Let me try this again. For what was that?
That U-turn, that
that you don't back in. It was another cheating scandal. I mean, the cheating scandal was like, at this time, I must have threatened so many girls. God forgive me, but I did. It was like, you know, when children are involved, you don't want these people around. And invite him back in. He comes back. I'm dealing with another situation with another girl. It's, you know, it was always bad. It's progressive. You know, now I realize he has a severe porn addiction. Oh, look, he's keeping photos and pictures and videos of people doing really nasty things to him behind their back. Oh, look, these are pictures of me. And I was like, what did I do? When I saw these other women, and these women don't even know that they're recorded. You're in his iCloud somewhere.
Yeah.
And I saw myself, I was really like, what is wrong with you? Like, I didn't give you permission to do this. Take them off. And he wouldn't. And then I, you know, changed all his passwords and stuff. I ended up getting pregnant again. And I have my belly and I tell my friend, this isn't gonna work. I don't know why I did this. When I have my son, I have to go. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, when I give birth, you have to remind me when all the feelings of joy and happiness pass. I have to go. We were sitting on my terrace. He was in the next room. And I'm telling her, please be my friend. Don't listen to me. Be a real friend. Tell me, Jen, remember what you told me. You gotta go. But it was hard for people to do, man. It was just so hard. It was hard. People didn't want to get in the way. They didn't want to get in the business. And I stood.
They also could have been afraid too. You know, they saw what he did. They were capable of. Yeah.
I think so. I don't think that's why. I think, you know, with people like this, they are so good at what they do, especially putting on the act, that people don't think they're capable of it. And this is where I can now see when these women come forward and these celebrities say, no, 17, 30 women, 40 women, I can believe it. You know why? Because I've been there. And I know that 20, 30 women, there was only 5 before me, and nobody said a thing. Everybody knew. No one told me nothing. And why didn't I go? Because I was scared. You know, I was so scared of disrupting my family, taking a father away from my daughter. What was he going to do to me afterwards? You don't know until somebody can say something. And then you're like, you know what? I can see why 17 women came out. They needed to know that they weren't alone.
Right. And
I completely get that.
Yeah.
So we can't judge, man. There are really intentional evil people out there. They have problemes.
So let's back up for just a minute with the cancer, the tumors. So
yes.
Did you take radiation or
no, I did not. They start me on prednisones, 20 milligrams, prednisones. He tells me, we're gonna see what we can do. I had already answered him like, Doc, I'm sorry. I can't do what you want me to do. I end up getting a homeopathic doctor. This lady that I do call my mother, she connected me to this other woman, and I sent her my stuff. And, you know, God made me a fighter somewhat. I know that.
Yeah,
because he put it in. I clawed my way out of these situations, and whatever she told me to do, I did it. I go back to the doctor. She said, retake the blood work. No, you don't have to. No, this is what I was told. Please retake the blood work. So she's going through my blood work, and she's like, you know, we can't take you off the prednisones because you can't tell when this actually happened. So it's aggressive. So we're going to do the things to counteract the prednisones as far as the side effects go and all the harm that it does. And then I'm going to give you things, you know, it's all herbs and stuff like that to help with the tumors. No problem. I listen to her. I get up. I would, even if it was a jumping jack, I did a jumping jack. Okay, I won today. I did a jumping jack. Next day, 1.5. It's okay. Eat something. I would eat something. I kept pushing. And then 4 months down the line, I gained some weight back, and I go to the doctor, and he's like, your tumor shrunk in half. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't have an explanation for this, but your tumor shrunk in half. And they're empty. There's nothing in there which I didn't understand that. I guess what they call free radicals or whatever. He's like, they're empty. He's like, it's like someone just told all the bad things to move out. They're just like empty tumors. I'm like, okay, well, is that good? He's like, yeah. I'm like, so what are my chances, doc? He's like, no, this is probably as good as it's gonna get. But you keep doing what you're doing. You keep running, you keep working out because it works for you. I'm okay, I can live with that, you know? And then I'm like, you know, I know you don't believe, but I have an answer for you. That's God. So he, you know, he laughs because we have that kind of relationship now. He's just like, okay. I'm like,
yeah, you got to say the name. You got to claim it. You may not believe, but let me tell you what I believe, and I know how I got here by the grace of God.
Yeah. So that had happened, and this is about the same time I had decided to move, and go to this new apartment, but it didn't matter because I got sucked right back in. Honestly, I think I was just feeling low. I was feeling lonely. I didn't think I could even like do anything else. And those are the things that were also like told to me. So I got sucked back in. My son comes, it does not stop. I mean, honestly, it was just that much more horrible. I remember being pregnant, finding love letters to other girls, and the abuse during the pregnancy of hitting again and all these things. And people just telling me, no, go to counseling. We went to 4 therapists. 4.
As a couple?
As a couple. We went to 4. Never
married.
Never married. Never married. We went to 4 therapists. We went to Christian therapy. And I'll tell you, we've gotten as far as 3 or 4 sessions in before he had a meltdown in front of the therapist. And they said, we need to stop these sessions. He needs to come alone.
Right.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Never happened. He eventually did, and they told him he was like, I guess, a narcissist with like a little bit of schizo or something like that. He never went back again, though. Once he heard, it was over. I'm in my new apartment, and I have made up my mind. At this point, I'm like, okay, I'm done. How do I get out? I have to let go of this attachment. Found him an apartment again. I worked really hard to move him out. It didn't matter. Even him living in another situation, he'd come over to the house every day. I'd still treat him like we were together. He'd still hit me. He pushed me through walls. He scared the crap out of my kids. And then at the last stretch of all this, was the final straw, was my daughter. My daughter is my strength. She tells me, no more, Mom.
Yes. God will use the babes.
Yeah, he spoke right through me to her. She said, Mom, I can get a new dad because he doesn't work.
Wow. And
this was surprising to me because, again, she was, all about her father. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And at this point, we're all in therapy. My son's in therapy because he's gotten between us. He's little. He's like 3. He's trying to defend me. My daughter's fed up. Things started to escalate even more. What I thought he wouldn't do, he was now doing. Like, we had an explosion with a neighbor's kid there. And my neighbor's like, I'm never bringing my daughter here again. And what am I going to say? What am I going to say? I'm like, I wouldn't either. Yeah. It's a dangerous situation, Mm-hmm. As the things were progressing, I think he realized that I was trying to let go. So I guess he was also spinning. So I was like, no. This cannot go on. I finally got the ability to sever a tie where it was like, you can't come here. You cannot see them because your daughter has requested you to go seek therapy. Now this, the therapist told him first, mm-hmm. before I even got to him. She told him, she does not want to see you. You have to get therapy. At that point, it became more aggressive. Mind you, he's already seeing somebody else. She has no idea, and I understand. You believe what you want to hear when these people tell you these things.
Right.
I was done. I had a lot of people around me at this point who were like, no, don't call, don't do anything. And it made me stronger.
The church, right? At this time, you're deep in the church?
Oh, yeah. And my pastor he was advising me like every other week. We were just talking. I was talking out. They never told me leave or do this. Pray on it, Jen. Pray on it. You're going to get your answers. And I would pray. I'd pray with him. He'd come. I'd sit him in the hallway. Let's pray first. Oh, okay. And then we pray. And I'm like, you're not doing the right thing. And the anger. I'm like, that's the devil. I'm
Yeah.
like, what am I doing? Things change. One of my friend's sons comes to live with me. And, you know, the thing about darkness, I realize is they don't like light. They run. When that young man came to live with me, he was marching to the beat of a different drum because he didn't want to expose what, you know, people already knew. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of backed him up for a little bit, which gave me an opportunity to breathe. And then I initiated court. I'm like, no, we're going to go to court. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Yeah. I went for child support. He sued me back for visitation. I sued him back for custody. And I'll never forget, it was Ash Wednesday. I go to court. You know, things are on the up and up for me. And I get out of court. I go to Target. I'm talking to my friend. I'm like, I'm so excited. You know, he messed up, but it's okay because it bought me a little more time to figure this situation out. And I put my kids in the car and we're ready to drive off. And I'm like, you know what? I missed the turn to get on the highway. I'm going to take local. And I get to this red light and I see smoke. And I'm like, there's no manholes here. Where are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles gonna pop out? And you know, my daughter's laughing, my son is laughing. And then all of a sudden I smell the fire and I see the flames start coming from underneath my hood. And I'm like, oh my God. And I screamed to my daughter, get the out of the car. And then like the whole front, it just went up in like flames. The car is on fire. I don't know what to do. I get out, I'm panicking. I'm trying to get my son out. My son is in tears. And I'm like, please, let me just get him out of the car seat. Take whatever you want. And I grab him and me and my kids, we hit the sidewalk and all you just heard was crash and boom. And people were driving by recording it. And the whole car went up in flames.
Wow.
And then I broke. It was Ash Wednesday and I just turned around and I said, you know what, devil? You could take this car. You could take whatever's in there, but you didn't burn the court papers. You could have him too, but you're not going to take me and my kids. I don't care because who I belong to is going to take care of the situation.
Amen.
And I'm done.
Yes.
And right there, I was fed up. And something shifted in me.
Yes. Yes.
It shifted. When that happened, I was like, no, things have to change. Now, another friend of mine was living with me, you know, my son's mother. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. This is too crazy. This situation is happening. I was so untrusting of people. I'm like, did he do this? Did he try to blow up me and the kids? You know, and that was probably one of the last conversations I had with him. So the car blew up. You almost lost all of us. Wake up. And the response was the same, like tomfoolery, fooling around, not really taking things seriously. I said, you know what? I'm going to pray for you, but there's nothing more that I can do for you. And that was it. 3 weeks later, COVID hit. And I was in the process of getting a new car. And this was 2 days before my birthday. And I was discussing with my roommate. I'm telling her, I gotta go. I can't be here no more. I gotta go. What am I gonna do? She's like, if you feel you gotta go, don't worry about the apartment, just go. I get the car and the next day they shut everything down in New York City.
Yeah.
Everything was shut down. I look at I call her my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna leave. She's like, you got a brand new car, honey. God is watching you. Take those kids and go.
Hit the road.
March 21st, my birthday, I turned 39 years old. I packed clothes and I told my kids, you ready? And we were gone. That was the last time I spoke to him. That was the last time they had any dealings with him. We were just gone, because it was in my heart. I kept having these dreams of Lot's story. And I'm like, if I stay here, I'm going to turn into that pillar of salt. If I stay here, he's going to have a way back, and I'm going to let him. Because at this point, I'm so weak and untrusting, and I don't know what to do. I know, because when you want, and when you're in that kind of a situation as well, with wanting to make things work, you're going to keep taking them back. You're going to keep taking them back. And I was like, my only way out is to leave. And God made that way for me. Yeah. COVID was a blessing for me.
Yeah, it was.
COVID was a blessing for me.
Right.
We got in that car. I got on the George Washington, and it was closed. I'm like, oh my God, they're not going to let us out of the city, because they were debating that, because March 21st, I was sitting there for like an hour, and I'm like, God, just let me get out of the city. I promise I'm going to change my life. I'm not going to go back, God. I promise you, I'm not going to go back. And the traffic just started flowing. And we were gone. We were gone.
So I am so happy for you, Jennifer. It is such a blessing to see how the storm started moving and you started moving. And even though you went back and forth and back and forth, you knew God was with you, and you knew God was working with you. That's the important thing. He was working with you. He was with you, and you get stronger every round. Every round you got stronger and stronger. And I'm so glad that you got out, and that now you are free and going to counseling still.
We are all going to counseling still. Things got a lot better. I went from 0 to 100 in like months.
Yeah.
I purchased my first home for my children. I started a business that I am a CEO of.
Right.
I'm excited for this new adventure. I go to the doctor for a random checkup, and he's like, I don't even know what to tell you. I said, you keep saying that.
But let me tell you.
He's like, it's like you never had anything before.
You are so blessed. You are so blessed, and you are such a blessing to others. So two more questions before we close. So what's your number one tip to someone who's in a situation like you were in?
If you're in a situation like I am in,
like you were in.
Was in, yes. Definitely a relationship with God through all of this is big. Pray, ask questions. Don't be afraid to speak. I think that was my biggest downfall. I lost a lot of people over that. My certain family members stopped talking to me because I wouldn't make that decision. And if you have that one really good friend who says, hey, I don't care if I hurt your feelings, what he's doing to you is wrong, love that friend. Yes. Because that friend right there is doing right by you. I promise you, let it go, because it's not worth the living in fear. It's not worth the abuse, the pain, the hurt. It's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. And what's your praise and worship life like now?
Oh my goodness. Wow. We get up every day at 4 a.m. because 4 a.m. is a good time for me. I actually just started practicing that during the relationship. I started getting up at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I'd pray to God. I'd read the Bible. I worship. I sing. I go for a run. I start working out. And I was just like, my first part of my day has to be dedicated to God, because if he loves me this much and he has done so much for me, then the least I can do is give him the first part of my day. And if it means me getting up early, hello, I need to get up early.
Jennifer, you are wonderful and amazing. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on Testify and give us your story. I'm pretty sure that so many people are going to be blessed and encouraged, and not only encourage a woman that's in that situation, but encourage a friend that knows a woman that's in that situation to speak up.
And I will say that too. If you do know somebody in that, and that's something I learned, and I'm going to do that from now on. I can't tolerate that type of behavior from somebody. I will speak. You should too. Anybody should speak. Because honestly, I realized, because when people have this idea of what's going on, and they don't really live with you and they don't know, they're like, oh, well, I didn't know it was that bad. And that's the difference between you ending up on the back of a milk carton and you surviving. Correct. And then you'll get the stories afterwards. Well, I didn't know, because you didn't take it serious enough. And I know now, when someone says I'm being hit or it's something crazy, you have to take it serious.
You have to take it serious.
You have to.
All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I wish you love, peace, and joy. Thank you again for sharing your stories with us.
Super nervous. I'm sorry.
Oh, you were great. You were great. You were great. Be blessed. Take care of those kids. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.